Bert and Mert and the Ghost Mystery by James Rhodes, art by B.B. Sams. Bert, why don't lobsters give things away? Mert said. Bert was busy hanging a picture on the wall. I don't know, he said. Why? Because they're shellfish, said Mert. Get it? Selfish. Bang, bang, bang. That's a big nail you're pounding, Mert said. That noise isn't me. Somebody is at the door, said Bert. Then why don't I find out who it is, said Mert. He opened the door. It was Mrs. Frickle, who lived on their street. Help, she cried. Somebody help. What's the matter, Mrs. Frickle, said Bert. Ghosts. I have a ghost in my house. He moans and howls and makes things bang and clang. Mert looked at Bert. Sounds like a mystery to me, he said. He and Bert were always finding clues and solving mysteries. Let's see if we can help you, Mrs. Frickle, Bert said. So Bert and Mert walked outside with Mrs. Frickle. The trees along the street were swaying. What did the tree say to the wind? Asked Mert. Leave me alone, Bert answered, chuckling. Then he picked up his pace. A storm is coming. Let's hurry. Bert and Mert and Mrs. Frickle crossed the road toward Mrs. Frickle's house. Mrs. Frickle unlocked her front door. Come in, she said. Mert and Bert followed Mrs. Frickle inside. They walked into the living room. Shh, said Bert, putting up a hand. I think I hear your ghost. Bert, Mert, and Mrs. Frickle stood as still as stone. They heard a sound. It's coming from the hallway, said Mert. They all tiptoed to the hallway. Mrs. Frickle said, That's not the ghost. That's the grandfather clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time we moved on, said Bert. As they walked through the hallway, Puddles the cat darted ahead of them. Suddenly there was a crash. Mert said, Look, look, there is your ghost. You can see him. There, all filmy-like. That's the cat, Bert said. He knocked over the vase and got tangled in the tablecloth. Bert, Mert, and Mrs. Frickle walked through all the other rooms in the house. They listened and looked around. No ghost, no moan. They stopped in the kitchen. Here's where my ghost was, said Mrs. Frickle. Just watch and listen. No sooner had Mrs. Frickle said these words than everyone heard a moan. It sent a chill down Bert and Mert's backs. Then the pots and kettles hanging on the wall began to rattle. Oh dear, there goes the ghost again, said Mrs. Frickle. Bert walked around the kitchen. Something blew his hat. Off he looked around. Aha, I know who your ghost is, he said. Oh dear, please tell me, said Mrs. Frickle, shivering. Please bring me a chair, Mert, said Bert. Mert took a chair from the kitchen table and gave it to Bert. Bert climbed onto the chair and closed a window that had been cracked open at the top. The moaning ended, and the pots and kettles stopped banging. My ghost is gone, said Mrs. Frickle, smiling. It wasn't a ghost. It was the wind blowing in from the top open window, said Mert. So it was. Thank you, said Mrs. Frickle. From now on, I'll close the windows on stormy days. And she did.